How much time should you spend exploring a town with a rich history? To try to learn some facts about the people who live there. A day? A month? For the most interesting town in Georgia, you'll need more than a day. So I decided to go back. There are many reasons why Milledgeville is so interesting. Its old Greek revival architecture, abandoned jails and lunatic asylums, old industrial buildings, pre-Civil War government buildings, churches, people who live there, and of course, ghost stories. Amazingly, you get used to these stories and kind of expect them after you visit a few small towns in the south. Today, my dear friend, we will not be disappointed.
There have been sightings of a woman.
He came up right behind me and said, "Speak."
Carrie.
And when I turned around, wasn't nobody there.
Isn't it interesting how this old southern town was able to recover and rebuild from its turbulent history to become what is today a thriving college town? Georgia College and State University is a public liberal arts university with approximately 7,000 students. It was established in 1889 as Georgia Normal and Industrial College for Women, mostly due to tireless efforts by Julia Flish, a journalist from Augusta. In 1922, the name was changed to Georgia State College for Women. It's been a part of a university system of Georgia since 1932. The famous local resident and writer, Flannery O'Connor, attended it and graduated in 1945 with a degree in social science. The first African American student, Celestine Hill, enrolled in 1964 and graduated with a degree in psychology. And the first male students were admitted in 1967, the same year when the institution was renamed Georgia College. We can be thankful to this university and nearby Georgia Military College for preserving and maintaining many important historical houses and buildings in this town, including Flannery O'Connor Home and Governor's Mansion that we explored in the last episode, and the old Capitol building that we'll visit today. But before we go there, there's another important historical house that everyone should visit, the last remaining inn and tavern in Milledgeville from the early 19th century. The Brown-Stetson-Sanford house was designed in a style called Milledgeville Federal, with its characteristic columned double porch. It was built in 1825 and many important legislators stayed here, including George Crawford, who served 2 terms as governor of Georgia from 1843 to 1847.
Well, good morning, and welcome to the
morning.
Brown-Stetson-Sanford house.
Oh, thank you.
Won't you come in?
Thank you so much. What a beautiful house.
Well, thank you. We're really proud of it and proud of the fact that it was not demolished in 1966, but instead was moved to this location and began the historic preservation movement in Milledgeville. So the house was built in 1824. It was built by a British architect contractor by the name of John Marler, and he was in Milledgeville building houses for an up-and-coming population. Georgia's capital at that time was Milledgeville, and so the legislators came in January to meet over in the old Capitol building, and they needed a place to stay. So a doctor by the name of George Brown built this house. At the time, it was to be an inn and a tavern for those legislators. And it remained an inn and a tavern until 1859, when it was sold to a family by the name of Stetson. And the Stetsons and their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren occupied the house for 98 years.
Wow.
And then in 1951, it was leased as a restaurant. It became the Sanford House Restaurant and Tea Room. And that was open and very popular. Congressman Carl Vinson, author Flannery O'Connor were frequent guests.
Really?
And then in 1966, the ladies who were running the tea room decided to retire. And so the family had a decision to make. They sold the property, but the house was to be destroyed. And the Old Capitol Historical Society got in there and they talked to the Sanford owners and were able to arrange to be given the house if it could be moved in time. And so the Historical Society began a very, very fast-paced fundraiser. They raised $50,000 to buy the lot and to move the house.
That's a lot of money
And
back
so
then.
here it is today. It is now a historic house museum. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about the layout.
Yes, please.
This is the parlor. This would be a formal parlor that was reserved for special guests of the family. And you'll notice the fireplace. It is a hand-carved fireplace with a sunburst design in the center and acanthus leaves on either side and pilasters that retain some of the original color. You can see the green and the golds in here and in the acanthus. And this is the egg and dart motif, and these are the little darts. The picture up above is one of our finest pieces of art in the house, and this is the daughter of the Stetson family that bought the house. This is Lizzie Stetson. And we have over here some mannequins portraying Mr. and Mrs. Stetson.
Okay.
Mr. Stetson came here and opened a mercantile store downtown and became a cotton factor. So he was well off in the cotton trade and then in the merchandise that he sold. The crazy quilt there on the piano is unique. Each panel is different, and it has everything from a 3-leaf clover to a balloon to flowers. And all the panels were made in 1883 by the women inmates of the state prison farm here in Milledgeville.
That's interesting.
I just want to point out that this is an elliptical cantilevered staircase. This was a signature of the architect, builder. We have another building downtown, the Masonic Home, and that's a complete circle and goes 3 floors. Ours goes 2 floors, and thankfully when the house was moved, it was one of the last houses in Georgia to be moved intact, that is the 2 stories.
Wow.
Now you could only move 1 story at the time, and this staircase would have had to have been removed and
Yes.
tried to put back in the
Back
house.
together, yeah.
Yeah. This was a gift from Catherine Rowe that did the storybook boxes. And you can see it's based on a home in Williamsburg, and it has every detail imaginable. We're just so proud of this. It was her daughter that donated it to the house, and it just is such a wonderful gift to share with the community.
Yes, it's beautiful. Do you know how much time she spent putting this together?
I do not, but
I would imagine
years.
Yes, yes.
Even the fire in the fireplace there quivers to make it look like it's a flame.
Oh,
Because this room, which we thought might be a room for Mrs. Stetson after Mr. Stetson died and her daughter Lizzie married Captain Sanford, that this might be her room. And it was all set. She's in mourning. She doesn't wear black because she's been in solid black for about 3 years. And now she's customarily wearing a pastel color like gray or lavender to show that she is now still a widow, but moving past the 3 years of severe mourning. And this is interesting because this is one of the first models of a recliner chair, and it reclines all the way to a prone position. And you can see it was a very comfortable start.
yes.
The spinning was done in probably in the attic.
Okay. Yeah, they had to make their own clothing, everything.
Everything.
Including shoes, maybe.
Yes, we have a pair of men's shoes. Now, men were much smaller.
Yeah.
The average height was 5'6", and the average shoe size was a size 7. This one, Manfield Jenkins, by order, bought 11 pounds of coffee for $2.
Wow. We love that price today.
I don't think we'll ever see that again.
No. No. Well, Miss Anne, thank you so much. This was
You
wonderful.
are so welcome.
My dear friend, isn't it a privilege to witness the tireless effort of people who give their time and resources to try to protect and preserve these important historical sites against all odds? It's a joy to see that there are still few who understand that preserving the memory of the people who built this town does matter, and is important not just to the local community, but also to the country. Unfortunately, there are many other important houses and buildings that are beyond repair and destined for ruin. Just recently, in the summer of 2023, government signed an executive order to demolish some of the most significant historical buildings in the Central Hospital complex, including our favorite and a little scary Jones Building. These old buildings are beyond repair, still containing asbestos and some other dangerous chemicals unsafe for people. However, it is still sad to learn that so much history will be lost so soon. Isn't this town full of surprises everywhere you look? And you do need to look carefully because it's easy to miss some important historical sites, like beautiful Rose Hill Mansion built in 1852.
I will be your tour guide today. My name is Orion, and this is Rose Hill. So this house was originally built by a man named J.R. Nichols in 1848. He unfortunately passed away. Because he did not have a will, all of his property ended up in the legal system. And in January of 1851, this house and the 100 acres that originally came with it was set up for auction. A wealthy plantation owner named Judge Daniel Reese Tucker bought the house for $5,500, which is a steal back then and today. But 3 weeks after he bought the house, it burned to the ground. So he rebuilt it. And this time he wanted to make sure it would never burn down again. So this house has an entire masonry build. It has a stucco facade that has been etched to look like large blocks of stone. Originally, this house was set for demolition. They were going to completely level the house and build a strip mall in its place, which just breaks my heart to hear.
Yes.
But luckily, a man by the name of Edward Grassman bought the house, started the Lockerly Arboretum that is around us. So he completely refurbished it. He wanted everything to be as time period accurate as possible and hired multiple people to do the research, make sure everything was appropriate. And the rugs that you see were all custom made for this house to be in the proper 1850s style.
Yes.
When the Hatcher family lived here, the last family to stay, the lady of the house named it Lockerly after her ancestral home in England. And when Grassman came here, he made the surrounding acres of the house, which had dwindled down to about 50 acres from the original 100. He named it Lockerly Arboretum. In 2014, the owners of the Arboretum renamed the house back to its original name, Rose Hill, which is thought to be attributed to the Cherokee roses that grew here back in the day. And that's the name that has been put on the historical records and everything like that. So,
I like that name.
no, me too. It's very nice. You'll also notice these mahogany pocket doors. Like I said, when the men and women would retire, they would close these doors and completely section off the two parlors. The idea was that the men would come back here, have a cigar, maybe a whiskey, and then the women would retire to the front and do their needlework, maybe enjoy some tea, classic gendered activities of the time. And this is probably one of my favorite pieces in the house, mostly because of what lies within it.
Wow.
I know. So this was Bavarian, I think, dated somewhere between the 1860s. The original idea was that you would twist one of these columns and these little compartments would pop out and you could store all your things. We can't do that anymore because the mechanisms are very old and we don't want to break them. But the intricacies of this piece always just wow me.
Yeah, this is amazing.
And this room, the informal dining room, was actually Judge Tucker's bedroom for the last 18 years of his life. I can't remember the exact name of the disease he was suffering from, but it made it to where he was wheelchair bound for those last years. And so the kitchen originally was actually underneath this room. So he would be wheeled over to a vent where the hot air from the stoves and such would come up and would ease him of those aches and pains. And Henry was his caretaker back then. We don't know a lot about Henry, but we can assume that he had a pretty all right relationship with the Tuckers, as he did return to continue to work for them after the war.
For pay, of course, for salary.
Yes, this time for salary.
Yes.
And then into our large formal dining room. This was originally Judge Tucker's office. Of course, when the Hollenshields and the Hatchers moved here, this became a formal dining room. And then when Grassman moved in, he turned it into basically like a meeting room for him and all of his corporate people. Was actually donated to us from the descendants of Daniel Tucker's daughter, Emma Sibley. It is hand-carved. It has a hunting theme, obviously, and has so many details. I love this piece as well. Yes. It's just, the longer you look at it, the more details you notice. It's incredible.
It is amazing.
I don't know what wood it's made from, but I do know it is real. I also know that this marble is real and that it is very, very heavy.
Yes, it looks heavy. It's very Gothic style.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1840 to 1860. Oh, yes. And the origin is thought to either be Bavaria or Germany. So, very, very amazing piece. Love it. And this is one of my favorite rooms in the house, mostly because of its color. Now, I don't know if this room was originally pink in the original house or if that was something Grassman decided, as this is supposed to be Martha Tucker's room, so Daniel Tucker's wife. However, I like to think it was original to the house, just because there's something very sweet imagining this 1852 home with a pink room.
Yeah, it's very calming. It's very peaceful in this room.
I know, something about it's just so nice. And this is a really good example of those wardrobes that I was talking about. Most people would put their clothing in as well. There we go. See, and that's kind of like, they have like a nice little antique like slip dress in here. I love this house. I think it has been very carefully maintained and restored. There have been sightings of a woman, and she's credited to be Emma, but we're not certain on that. But the story goes that when this house was being refurbished and refinished by Grassman and his people, the construction workers who were, making sure everything was still sound, saw an apparition of this woman in a white dress who looked at them and gave them a smile supposedly in admiration, you know, and like approval, and then she just disappeared. The funny thing is that when a woman tried to sleep up there, I don't remember exactly when, probably sometime around the similar era, I think she was actually staying there because of the ghost stories of Emma. When she was sitting at the, you know, vanity brushing her hair, she heard a voice telling her to get out of her room, and frightened, she ran out and asked the manager if she could stay in a different room. And when she went to go collect her things, she saw that same apparition of the woman in the white dress.
So we think that's Emma
Tucker Sibley, which was
Tucker.
Daniel Tucker's daughter,
Okay.
who did pass in this house along with her husband, George.
Okay.
And according to the woman, once she scared, explained that she's just trying to collect her things, the apparition disappeared.
Okay.
And you could logically explain any of the strange noises as just the old house settling or anything like that. I mean, you can hear firsthand how creaky the floors are.
Yes, yes.
But I like to think that maybe Emma is sticking around. So when Amara, her father actually worked for the administration, so he bought the mirror.
So this actually came from White House?
Yes, and Mara donated it to us. So this mirror was originally in the White House at one point.
That's
and
amazing.
Don't
It's
know,
priceless.
right? Don't know why they threw it away either, because I quite like this mirror.
Yes, yes.
But
Wonderful.
yeah,
Thank you, Orion. This
of
is wonderful.
course.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad that you came back.
Absolutely beautiful house. Gorgeous. I love these old houses, but this one is really impressive. Rose Hill Mansion. The word arboretum was borrowed from Latin, and the translation is a place with trees growing, or today meaning a botanical garden devoted to trees. Edward Grassman, a wealthy businessman from New Jersey, established Lockerly Arboretum Foundation in 1965, providing educational support to students interested in gardening and nature, and also as a cultural gift to the whole community. There's even a small museum that it's very interesting to see. The old Capitol is the most imposing building in Milledgeville. It is still used today by Georgia Military College, but it's also a museum. The construction began in 1805 and it was the first public building ever designed in the United States in the Gothic Revival style. This building served as a seat of government for the state of Georgia from 1807 to 1868. And inside there are portraits of every governor that served until 1868. The most significant and unfortunate event that happened in this building was the Secession Convention in 1861, when the state officials voted to secede from the Union. Let's see if we can go to the main chamber. Chair. Just so much history in this place.
He don't bother you. Really, he just wanted people to know he's there.
Yeah, he's a nice ghost, right?
It's like he wants conversation with you.
Did he ever actually
Speak.
spoke with
To
you?
this.
Right.
He has called my name.
He told her to speak,
He came up right behind me and said, "Speak."
Carrie.
And when I turned around, wasn't nobody there. He's opened doors.
What's his name? Do you know? Did
He's
he
never
tell
said
you?
his
His name.
I've
And I can't
asked.
tell you if he's black or white.
No.
Because he's all black.
Yes.
Everything is
Black
jet
attired.
black. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, how
He's
many
not-
times did you
I
saw him?
have seen him multiple times.
Me too.
He's not hostile. He's real calm.
He have on a double breast suit
Yes.
with something tied around his
Yes.
waist.
Belt, old
Like
style
a belt. That's right, a belt.
Oh, okay.
And the jacket comes about right here over his thighs.
Okay. So you can't tell if he's sad or happy or.
I can tell that he's
You
a
can-
pleasant guy because
His voice isn't hostile. He just sounds calm.
Oh,
Like if
okay.
me and you were talking like right now.
Oh,
Calm.
okay. So when was the last time you saw him?
the last time he told you to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, like last time he told me to speak and he called my name
he said,
Okay.
"Speak
and
to
I
me."
had acknowledged him.
That was a couple
He-
weeks ago, or
This has been a couple months.
Months. This
Couple
been
months.
I
Okay.
haven't seen him.
Okay.
It's been a while since
It's
I've
been
seen
a while.
him. Like every
Okay.
now and then you can hear him walking down the hall, the tap
Oh,
of
okay.
his shoes.
Yes.
But
Other
he
than
don't
that.
bother you.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's a guard.
Yeah.
I told them, I said, that man, I kept telling them that I saw him, but they didn't tell us that it was a true saying that it's a ghost in there.
Yeah.
Put his head right here.
Yeah.
When I turned and looked dead in his face, I said, "Oh, you scared me."
So how come you didn't see any facial expressions when he did it, since he was so
just a
close?
black-
Oh, it was just a blur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
His face is always the same color
Always.
as his uniform.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
is
Jet
just
Gotcha.
black.
Everything is all black.
That's interesting. That's so
Isn't
interesting.
that funny? it really is. It's
So fascinating and interesting because when one person says that, something like a story like that, you know, you always question in the back of your mind. But when two people
Yes.
are saying the same
Yes.
thing, that's just
There's
fascinating.
A lot of people who are kind of scared to work in that building because of that. But
just because of that.
because
huh?
they actually do. They hear it and they see the figure, but it scares them,
yes.
and you can't be scared.
No.
So more people saw him.
Yes. This story been going on, they say, for years.
Yeah.
A lot of people let us know
Yeah.
that our supervisor let us know it had to be true because so many people won't go in that building because
Very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Did you enjoy exploring this interesting town with so much history? Do you have a feeling you could easily spend a month here and still learn something new each day? Yes, this is the most interesting town, but its most valuable treasure is the people who are working so hard to preserve and to show us these important historical sites. Please consider visiting these places and supporting them to continue their important work. As we've seen, it's too late to save some buildings and houses, but at least we can record these sites. Use your camera, my friend, and consider following this channel. Keep traveling, learning, and being amazed.